good way to start some of these sessions or discussions around deep tech is really to define what is deep tech and what do we mean by it. And certainly for me, as I think about it, these are the types of technologies that were just mentioned. These are technologies that are based on a lot of science and innovation that have huge global, national, and societal impact. Many of these technologies we look at as being way out in the future. But as we've seen, ChatGPT was launched in November of 22. So in a month, we'll only be celebrating the 30-year anniversary of it. So I tend to think of a lot of these far-reaching technologies as actually that on a horizon that is coming in very quickly as we progress. And if we're solving the technology part of it, really the most challenging piece then becomes the financing element. And how do we actually make these happen? I'm going to go to the panelists and have them define what they see as their definition of deep tech and their area of focus. But I'll give you as an HBS person, I'll give you one case study to think about. In October of 24, a vertical takeoff and landing company called Lilium, which is an air taxi business, had already gone public in 21 through a SPAC, and they had raised just over $400 million. They needed to secure 50 million euro financing from the German government to be able to use a larger financing facility to satisfy a demand of 100 air taxis for an order in Saudi Arabia. So needing that 50 million euro, they were not able to secure it. Lilium went bankrupt in October of 24. And in that same month, Joby, another air taxi provider, raised $500 million from Toyota. This was after Toyota had already given them over $300 million. And they too had delivered one prototype of that air taxi at that time. And today, Joby is a $13, $14 billion market cap business. So these are both businesses that developed this technology over 10 years with very different outcomes. Even though they had gotten to a point of technology proof, the financing made the difference. And the return on Joby has been huge. So with that, I'm going to turn to the panelists. And Miriam, starting with you, maybe you could give us your definition and how you think about deep tech.
So deep tech definitely requires its own definition. And from what I see worldwide and everywhere you go, people have slightly different definitions of it. I think, in my view, that deep tech is anything related to technological breakthrough, science, and innovation, but I see it also as strategic issues. So, for example, we would have medical devices based on technological breakthroughs, but since it's not necessarily strategic, I don't include it personally in the definition of deep tech. So I'm looking into quantum computing.
When you say it's not strategic, what do you mean by it's not strategic?
So strategic is something that has a very long vision, that is clearly a matter of competition around the world. It could be even competition between geographies, but definitely between huge corporations. And we can take supercomputing and quantum computing as a clear example of that it's very obvious that if you developed a quantum computer or a software computer that can mine crypto very quickly, you would definitely not want to give it to your competitors.
Right.
So this is what I define as strategic and long vision.
Got it. And Jamil, what about your view? How do you think about it?
Thank you for having me here. I think deep tech is really the physics of progress. Ultimately, when you look at the capital market, how they behave, initially we looked at oil. Then we moved to data. Now it's really the evolution of progress of technology itself. So I agree with Miriam, actually, from deep tech has to do with strategic advancements, and that's why most advancements usually happen within research and development in coordination with the defense sector. It's usually long-term, it's usually visionary, and it actually happens before the commercial world takes it. As far as deep tech today, we can look at physical AI perhaps, or quantum computing and others as part of deep tech. But we were going through a philosophical maybe discussion around, or cognitive discussion around, is food security could be considered possibly a deep tech or not? I'd love to honestly hear your views on that, perhaps. Maybe.
That's super interesting because I initially did not mention food security, but obviously, for example, it's not about making sugar with less calories. It's about really allowing people in the desert, for example, to have enough food from low resources. So I think definitely this should be something included in deep tech, including water, and definitely energy, which we forgot to mention.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Energy might be the number one, right?
Absolutely. And today, honestly, I see a natural incubator of deep tech, mainly the defense industry, and from place with deep pockets is really sovereign wealth funds. And the reason behind that is it's IP intensive, it's capital intensive, it's IP heavy, and it requires a lot of patience. And usually fast, small VCs, they're looking for quick returns and shorter period, while the sovereign wealth funds, they look overall in changing economies. So deep tech, I would say, is strategic, but also it has to make an evolution or revolution within the actual innovation itself.
Let's stick on that. Let's talk a little bit more about that, because certainly one of the encouraging signs over the last 5 to 10 years is really what we've seen from the likes of Tesla and SpaceX, and some of really what Elon Musk has created. We're now seeing technologies that heretofore we thought were 5, 10 years out, and they're suddenly becoming near term and real term. And so when we start to think about some of this financing, how do you think about the fit with the stage of these companies? Clearly, the sovereign wealth funds have played a very significant role. In a large way, the US government has probably been one of the largest financiers of deep tech globally. But to get these to a certain stage, you need to have all of these other constituents, including the venture capitalists. So how do you think about that, Miriam?
So I think that you described it really correctly, and we saw that especially in recent years and the bubble that we had during COVID days. I think that many venture capitalists failed to understand that it takes much, much more time than it used to take during COVID to bring a company to IPO, to M&A, to actually exit and return the fund. So I think that back the days that you would have it within 3 years are gone. And
this is for traditional tech.
For traditional tech,
right.
I would say, well, old tech is like traditional SaaS,
Correct.
I would say.
Yeah.
Traditional SaaS, you have a company, it provides some sort of a feature, whatever.
Right.
Maybe the only exception would be the cybersecurity industry that still has high demand and huge budgets to buy probably anything. But other than that, I think that the old days of fund returning SaaS companies are gone. And I think this is part of the disillusionment about venture money that we're kind of seeing. I think that investments in deep tech where you have strong technological moat, when they are combined with multinational companies, also not only as money, but also as guidance and strategy, and with governmental grants, can provide an amazing outcome. I think that the model that we have in Israel with the Israeli Innovation Authority de-risks some of the deep tech innovation up to 75% of the initially money required to de-risk it is very successful. I think that any fund and any startup going into deep tech should be very well familiar with the grants like the EIC and others, in order to scale and build a strong company. I think that maybe the perception that led into this, that deep tech is long-term, a lot of money, et cetera. I think we can give one example, and it's only one, right?
Sure.
Sure, it's extreme, but in Israel we have several very, very successful deep tech companies acquired by Intel and others. Is a company that is now, it was acquired by NVIDIA. It's called Mellanox. It was acquired by NVIDIA several years ago. NVIDIA back then was a very, very boring company. Yeah. And Mellanox was also a boring company. And today, the Mellanox business accounts for more than 50% of NVIDIA's revenue.
Mellanox actually went public as well.
Yeah,
it became a public company.
Right. So NVIDIA bought it out of the market, but it accounts today for more than 50% of NVIDIA's revenue. So you can't say that was not a good investment for all the parties involved.
Jamil, what about from your perspective? I mean, we've seen now just a lot of money being scaled into AI, and I tend to think of AI as the precursor to deep tech's AGI, right? Deep tech is, and the physical part of deep tech is what creates all of that cognitive reasoning and problem solving that's necessary for AGI. But we're at a stage where the UAE, this area, really is dominating the AI part of the market right now. Share with us some of your views on kind of what that opportunity is at that scale.
Sure, thank you. Let me just actually take a step back here. So in order for us to move forward, we have to look at the past sometimes, or the present. With the deep tech evolution of technology and the progress, we cannot hide the fact of digital infrastructure and data centers, where we need to build strong digital infrastructure and data centers. We also need to look at the overall supply chain on how it works. Today, when I was looking at some research, actually, the main players in chips, there's only one company in the world that does lithography, which is in the Netherlands. The main player is TSMC, that designs the chips, in Taiwan. Some people could argue Intel is trying to do 1.8 nanometers of chips. They're trying, they're not there yet. Today, the latest actually development is 2 nanometer of chips. But mainly it's TSMC, and to somewhat, Samsung is trying to catch up. They're 8,000 kilometers apart. There's a major issue with the supply chain on how the world works. Now today, I believe the UAE and the GCC has the capital and the hunger and the willingness, due to our leader's vision, is to basically de-risk this supply chain challenge. And what I would like to see is, I would like honestly to see us as an insurance policy to the world to perhaps control the supply chain, so it's no longer trying to race for market share, but it's really a control of dominance. So having chips made in the UAE with only one company that actually designs the 2 nanometer, it's key for us. That's something. But today, of course, places like companies like Mubadala, G42 have created a very strong investment arm, such as MGX, that invests billions of dollars in chips. Of course, we were cleared for half a million quantity of chips, 500,000 quantity of chips from NVIDIA to be cleared to be imported in the UAE. And same thing with PIF, along with Humane and Alat in Saudi Arabia. They are no longer consumers, but they have become partners. And whoever is going to control the supply chain today is going to be able to make progress within that evolution itself.
So you think that that's the opportunity here for the GCC. So this is not just a financial return that they're looking at. This is a far broader strategic strategic play?
Definitely, it's a strategic play. I mean, you have more than 190 nationalities that live here in harmony. People used to come and be attracted to the place only because of money. But honestly, founders will follow the money, but then they'll stay because of a mission. We have a mission today, and founders want to contribute to that mission, and they want to stay. And this is how we grow the ecosystem. So yes, we attracted them because of the money, but we're keeping them because we have become a big lab for the world.
Well, let me come back to, that's a good point. Let me come back to that by first sort of leaning on Miriam a little bit. Miriam, you do a lot of work with the Ministry of Finance. You've done a lot of work with this deep tech startup nation. You're from Israel, which is startup nation by definition. So what are the best practices out of Israel that you see? And I'll circle back to you, Jamil, just to then talk about what do you see happening in the GCC that may actually mirror some of these best practices that we see out of Israel.
So I think the best practice, first of all, you need to have talent. You need to have people with the right education, with the depth. And this is something that obviously Israel is limited. It's not a big country. And this is why you have to invest a lot in early stage education and education in depth. Then the next thing, it would be grit. And I think grit is something Israelis are like no others. The grit that you never give up. You need to have the vision that you're going to do something no one has ever done before. And some people might say you're crazy. And then you have the culture. You need to have the culture and the support to know how to build a company. And this is not obvious. So you can see the evolution in the Israeli tech industry that, for example, up until 2010, we would have mainly R&D centers that were sold. But you wouldn't have established standalone companies. And then when we had knowledge pour in through multinationals, you would see big companies evolve. So today in Israel, you have a lot of support and a lot of knowledge among people in the industry about how to build a company, a whole company that manufactures, that innovates, that sells, that builds a real business.
And this support is public policy support?
So part of it is public policy support, and part of it is culture. What I think is very unique about the Israeli industry is that everyone helps everyone, even if they're competitors.
So then, Jamil, what do you think about that? How does that sort of mirror what you're seeing in the GCC? Because the capital is here, also small populations, but the ability to import a lot of very talented people is also here. How do you think that mirrors what you're creating?
Look, while Europe is regulating and the US is agreeing on the budget and disagreeing on the budget, we here honestly finish things in one meeting.
Yeah.
And we just get things done.
Yeah.
We just move forward. So, yes, we are a small population. We're attracting all kind of talent, and we're building, an environment of an ecosystem. So there is Hub 71 that has been established in Abu Dhabi. There is AI 71 here, Area 71 here. Of course, there's a whole bunch of companies such as TII, AI 71, along with ADQ as an investment vehicle, as well as Mubadala and Adia, PIF in Saudi, and others. So the theme is similar. There is a speed or a need, a vision here, a vision and a mission for dominance in the technological advancements. So we are creating the ecosystem. We're attracting the right talent here. We're also teaching our young children, more advanced technologies. So that's what we're trying to do here.
Got it. So if you are wearing your capital allocator hat, what are you looking for from a fund that's coming into the GCC that'll get you interested in actually providing capital to them?
Wow, it depends, to be honest with you. So I agree with
in the deep tech,
I agree.
tech fund.
First thing, we invest in founders. We invest in people. We don't invest in technology. So the
Right.
technology does change. When a founder comes and tells me they're in stage A or series A or B and they've sold 50% of their company, that's not a founder I want to invest in. They're already in exit mode. So I'd like to see the tenacity, I'd like to see the vision, I'd like to see how they work, the background. So a failed serial entrepreneur is actually a favorable one than just an entrepreneur that managed to get it from the start and may or may not continue. Also, we invest very based on vision. So we have, in Saudi, they have a 2030 vision,
Yeah.
and over here we have one as well. We look to invest in technological advancements, quantum computing, supercomputers, food security, defense, cybersecurity is always there, energy sector. So one of my main concerns as a human being on this earth, there's like 8 billion people. Are we going to run out of resources?
Yep.
We hear a lot about, the whole Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk mentality. Elon Musk just doesn't like Earth. He just wants to ship all of the human being to space. While, Jeff Bezos says, you know what, I'm fine here. Why don't we move the data centers up there?
Exactly.
And these are two different things. I mean, the data centers in this world are costing more than 10 trillion liters of water a year. This is enormous. With countries like in the Middle East, where water is scarce, it is an issue. We have an abundance of solar, but we don't have enough water. So this is something I don't want to have to compete with data centers and internet and advancements of technology to have basic needs.
So you're looking for entrepreneurs that are solving huge problems, which is what deep tech is meant to be, right?
Small but steady.
Yep.
Huge would be great, but small but steady would work as well.
Got it. And then Miriam, what about you? I mean, you're investing at a much earlier stage. The point of commercial viability is sort of way off in the future. You have to think about really how you can get there. It's very difficult for you to diligence it. So how do you think when you're meeting these deep tech companies that something is an opportunity or not?
So obviously, I agree with Jamil, absolutely. Team is key.
Okay.
You invest in people because it's not my sentence, what I'm going to say right now. I really liked it from the person from Goldman Sachs who shared it with me. He said, excellent ideas with mediocre teams fail 100% of the time. But excellent teams with a mediocre idea, they sometimes get it right.
Right.
So I absolutely agree. So I invest in people. Obviously, a scientist of a unique scale that has unique knowledge. One of our companies in the field of diamond electronics, there are like 10 scientists of his kind in the world. This is something I would invest in. Obviously, you look into the exit strategy. I think this is the main question you asked startups. What is your exit strategy? So I think that one of the things that I like about deep tech, that it's more resilient to volatility in the public markets. When you see things go up, things go down, recession, etc., most of the exit strategies for deep tech companies, I think, are not from IPOs and public markets. Most of them are from M&As, from strategic players. They say, yeah, have to acquire this piece because we need it, or we have to acquire this piece because we don't want our competitors to have it.
Yeah.
And I think this makes these investments much more viable. You sometimes know, and usually you would know that you have at least 2 competitors who will compete against the acquisition, and this is part of our strategy.
Yeah, the M&A part of it is interesting because a lot of technology that's developed in deep tech often is developed so differently from any other existing business that's out there. So it's, in a lot of ways, I guess it forces companies to think very differently. Unlike traditional tech where you have a solution and there may be alternatives to it, right? And so you're choosing what is the best one that's there. But to your point, if someone has developed a quantum computer, getting hold of that quantum computer before anyone else is a significant advantage in the market. Otherwise, I think most of these deep tech companies have such huge societal benefit. They are looking to the IPO market to try to get there as we've seen with Tesla, for instance. And many of them going to have to take a much longer time to make their way. There's a lot we could talk about on the exit side of things, because that's always really important when you start thinking about late-stage financing. But let me just engage both of you now and just think about, when you think about where are some of the key areas for financing. We enumerated a lot of different parts of the market, but if you were thinking today of where would you want to be putting your capital from a deep tech perspective, or Jamil, just from a large capital deployment, what would be your top area of focus?
Anything related to AI infrastructure and supercomputing. That would be my main area of focus. I think because I think that this allows the fastest exit strategy.
Okay.
Because it's in a lot of need, and anything related to supercomputer, it's very similar. It's a similar path to faster calculations in anything in defense, in biotechnology, in energy, in crypto.
Got it. Jamil, what about you? Does that have 100% overlap with you?
I totally agree. I think within VCs and sovereign wealth funds, they do not compete as much as they complement. I look at probably the more capital-intensive parts. So as we heard about the Stargate with 5 gigawatts, the largest outside of the US data centers, you need the capital infrastructure. You need to have the infrastructure. When you have the infrastructure, you have the data. You need to have strong security, strong parameters. That being said, this is actually a long term. It's capital intensive. It requires tenacity, but it requires an understanding. So I would look probably for the data centers. I need to understand also how I can make it more efficient within the security perspective and, the energy perspective. So energy is key for me, how to use the right resources and not to take from us as human beings. And then, of course, we can have the top layer, which is the AI, which became an asset class of its own, I would say. It graduated from deep tech into its own asset class.
Got it.
And that's where I would see it.
You know, one of the participants on this panel was Fadi Saad, and Fadi runs Cybernetics out of Boston, and that is a dedicated robotics fund. And in conversations with Fadi, one of the things that he would tell you, obviously, if he was up here, he would say his number one area continues to be robotics, because of the vast number of humanoids and different robots that they're seeing deployed. I think just in China, this year, up to this year, they've deployed almost 400,000 robots just in different parts of China. But certainly one of the elements that he has seen is that a year ago, when they were actively deploying the fund, they were getting lots of opportunities to put capital out at a very early stage in small numbers and sort of the $5 and $10 million. And then today, look around, we have SoftBank buying ABB's robotics business for over $5 billion. So even that world has moved from an initial venture type investment to now suddenly it's become one where the likes of the GCC capital providers really should be actively playing in here as well. Well, look, I want to thank both of you for your insights. I want to make sure that everyone knows we're all available here for the rest of the day. It's been a pleasure having a discussion with you on a topic that's very interesting to me. So thanks very much.
Thank you very much for
Thank you.
inviting us. Thank you.